She said it like a house rule, not a feeling. You're sleeping on the couch until you apologize. I remember nodding before I'd decided anything. Okay, I said. Not defensive, not sarcastic, just factual. The argument had already drifted past whatever it was supposed to resolve. An apology was being demanded for something I hadn't done, something that kept changing shape every time I tried to understand it. The couch was narrow and smelled faintly of detergent and old popcorn. The first night, I lay there listening to the refrigerator click on and off, thinking the discomfort would produce guilt. Didn't. Produced clarity. I replayed the conversation carefully. I looked for the missing piece, the careless word, the oversight, the place where an apology would be honest. I couldn't find it. What I found instead was a familiar pattern. Distance used as leverage, silence meant to teach. Days passed. No check-ins. No softening. Just the expectation that time would do the work words weren't doing. On the fourth night, my back ached. On the fifth, I moved a pillow. On the sixth, I carried my laptop into the guest room to finish a report and noticed how quiet it was in there. Neutral. Unclaimed. I slept there that night. I didn't announce the change. I didn't frame it as a decision. I just stayed. The room evolved the way practical things do. A lamp so I could read without eye strain. A desk I'd been meaning to assemble. A plant that didn't need much attention. Each addition made sense on its own. Together, they made something steadier than the couch had ever been. I stopped waiting for the door to open. My routines tightened. Mornings were calmer. Work focus sharpened. The absence of tension, of anticipating whether I'd earned warmth that day, freed up space I hadn't realized I was paying for. She noticed, eventually. Not directly. Comments floated past like test balloons. You've been distant. I nodded. I've been sleeping better. You're really going to drag this out? I'm not dragging anything, I said. I'm just not apologizing for something I didn't do. There were pauses after that. Longer ones. By the third week, the guest room didn't feel temporary. Music played there sometimes. My books lived there now. It wasn't a statement. It was a reflection. The room held me without conditions. The night she walked in, I was reorganizing a shelf. She stood in the doorway longer than necessary. I felt it before I saw her, the shift in the air when someone realizes a rule has outlived its authority. This looks permanent, she said. I turned, leaned against the desk. It's comfortable. You're acting like you live here. I do, I said. Not pointed. Accurate. Her face moved through a few expressions. Confusion first, then something like anger, then recalculation. So that's it? You're just going to ignore me until I give up? I'm not ignoring you, I said. I'm available to talk. I'm not available to apologize for something untrue. Silence stretched between us. Not the punishing kind, the evaluative kind. She asked if this meant we were separating. I said I didn't know. I said I'd suggested counseling weeks ago and was still open to it. I said I wasn't willing to be exiled into remorse as a condition of closeness. She didn't respond right away. She left the room, then came back, as if checking whether it would rearrange itself in her absence. Didn't. The days that followed were quieter than the weeks before. Less performance. More waiting. We scheduled a session with a counselor, not as a concession but as a shift from leverage to process. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad, and steadier than I'd been in a long time. There's a difference between winning and no longer losing yourself. The marriage didn't resolve neatly. Some nights were still tense. Some conversations went nowhere. But one thing had changed for good. I was no longer trading my dignity for peace. The guest room stayed mine. Not because I'd been banished, but because I'd stopped participating in a rule that required me to be wrong in order to be close. Sometimes the most decisive thing you can do is say, okay, and then mean something entirely different by it.